Tzedek, tzedek tirdo. Justice, justice, you shall pursue.
Maajid, hello.
Oh, it's Gideon, chair of the campaign against anti-Semitism. Actually, a pleasure to have you on. Please educate us, Gideon, on this topic. Have you been listening in?
I have been on and off. The service that you're doing is absolutely phenomenal here, because what we're hearing is a huge range of people calling in quite often to tell Jews why they're wrong to be offended by anti-Semitism, and zeroing in on these things which are, as you say, irrelevant, the policies of the Israeli government, or the etymology of the words Semitism and anti-Semitism. These things are completely irrelevant. And I think that what's important here, the question of this slot, I suppose, is, do we need a new definition of anti-Semitism? I think that really the definition of anti-Semitism that we have is pretty established, and it's pretty much agreed on. This was the one that we're currently debating. Was originated in 2005 by the EU. It's since been adopted by the US State Department. The EU Parliament uses it. The Home Affairs Select Committee just adopted it. The 31 member nations of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance use it. So all of these different organizations have rallied around this single definition, because what it does is it takes a very simple definition of anti-Semitism, and then it lists some examples which are pretty much all of the contemporary and classical examples of anti-Semitism that Jews face today. And I think that the most important thing that somebody can do, if they're confused about whether a particular view is anti-Semitic, is actually just to look at that definition, to have a read of it and read through those examples. And exactly as you say, if somebody's saying that Jews are the new Nazis, or that Israel ought to be destroyed, that is an anti-Semitic view in modern discourse, and it needs to be tackled as such. And so I think what's been very useful, I suspect, for all of the listeners, is to hear people calling in and challenging these very basic, very sensible points, which pretty much everybody agrees with, and to show what kind of thing the Jewish community has to put up with, because we suffer a sort of a double anti-Semitism, where we both suffer from anti-Semitism, and then when we try and complain about it or call it out, people say, no, you're wrong to be offended. You're trying to use that to stifle criticism of Israel, or you're using the wrong word. So
tell us about that, Gideon. Be very clear, so that our listeners, because as you say, lots of people are confused about this. Is criticizing Israeli policy, in your view, anti-Semitic?
Absolutely not, until it crosses a border. And the border is, if you say that I'm going to criticize Israeli policy, that's absolutely fine. If you say I'm going to criticize Israeli policy and I'm also going to call for the destruction of the state of Israel, or I'm going to criticize Israeli policy by saying that the Israelis, the survivors of the Nazis, are now the new Nazis, that crosses a border. But by all means, you and I could have a very sensible debate all day long
about why I'd vote for the Labour Party if I were an Israeli citizen.
But indeed, and we could have all sorts of debates about the policies of Israel, and that would be absolutely fine, just as we could have debates about British domestic politics. That's completely normal. But when you cross a line into attacking the very right of Israel to exist,
while not questioning America's right to exist, Australia's right to exist, Pakistan's right to exist, Bangladesh's right to exist. Yeah, all right. Thank you. That's Gideon there, who is the chair of the campaign against anti-Semitism.